What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, and we are back with another FCS award breakdown, man. And we got to talk about the biggest and best award out there, the FCS Player of the Year award, the Walter Payton Award. We dropped our Buck Buchanan Award breakdown yesterday. Make sure to go check that out. It'll be linked at the end of the video. But man, the Walter Payton Award race all year to me has felt like a two-person race, just like it was last year. But we need to break down who finished in the top 10, and then we're going to break down the top three candidates, and then I'm going to break down who I want to win, who I would vote to win, and who I think will win when this award is announced the night before the national championship in Frisco, Texas, man. But let's get to the top 10. And in 10, we had two ties in the top 10. 10th place is a tie between Jason Shelley, Missouri State quarterback, and Trevor Penning, the only offensive lineman on the ballot, Northern Iowa offensive tackle. And both of these guys had an outstanding year, man. Jason Shelley, 3,300 passing yards, 22 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing, over 400 yards rushing, and for a Missouri State team that had an outstanding season, getting to the FCS playoffs, making it to the second round before ultimately losing in that second round. And then Trevor Penning, you and I made the FCS playoffs as well, one of the last at large bids. But this kid, as an offensive lineman guy, Trevor Penning is going to be a problem at the next level. Right now, according to most sources and most publications, he's honestly probably the best FCS prospect in the 2022 NFL draft, and was the first FCS Senior Bowl invite for this season. So Trevor Penning has been a crucial part of this UNI offense, while Jason Shelley had a great season for Missouri State at the quarterback spot. Ninth place, Akil Glass, who was a finalist last year out of Alabama A&M at quarterback, 3,500 passing yards, 36 passing touchdowns, one rushing, and was the 2021 SWAC Offensive Player of the Year for a 7-3 Alabama A&M team this year that finished third in their division, right behind FAMU, who made the playoffs, and Jackson State, who ended up being the SWAC champions. Great statistical year for Akil Glass. Just not enough to become a back-to-back finalist for this award. Now, seventh place, a tie again, man. Xavier Gibson, Stephen F. Austin, wide receiver, while Isaiah Afonso, Montana State running back, ties him here in that seventh, eighth place spot. Now, Gibson, arguably one of the best wide receivers in the country this year, over 1,300 receiving yards, 74 catches, 14 receiving touchdowns, and a punt return touchdown, and really was a huge integral part of Stephen F. Austin making that FCS playoff run this season, losing ultimately in the first round to Incarnate Word one of the best games of the season, a big overtime game where Stephen F. Austin had a great chance to win that one. While Afonso has been a crucial part of Montana State, who finds themselves in the quarterfinals this weekend with a chance to knock off Sam Houston, the defending national champions. But he has over 1,400 rushing yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, along with the receiving touchdown, and has been one of the best players in the Big Sky all season long. Now, we're getting into the final three guys here before we get into our finalists. At sixth place, we had Cameron Ward, Incarnate Word quarterback, who now has entered the transfer portal. I'm going to be doing an episode on his transfer coming up. But this season, man, had a ridiculous year for Incarnate Word. 65% completion percentage, over 4,600 passing yards, 47 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. It was the Southland Offensive Player of the Year this season. And everybody, there's going to be a lot of teams in the country who are after Cameron Ward. He is the fourth highest ranked quarterback in the transfer portal, according to 247 Sports, only behind Quinn Ewers, only behind Dylan Gabriel and Spencer Rattler. That shows you how great of a season Ward had. He was a very big part of Incarnate Word making it to the second round and coming within 7 points of knocking off the defending national champions in Sam Houston State. Now, in fifth place, Pierre Strong Jr., man, South Dakota State running back, 1,500 rushing yards, 17 rushing touchdowns, 4 passing touchdowns too, man. The kid has an arm on him with those creative plays. A shout out for South Dakota State for letting him air it out a little bit. But this guy has been probably back-to-back years one of the best running backs in the FCS. Finished near the top of this list in the spring at least. And Pierre Strong is a huge part of what has South Dakota State won or had them in the FCS championship last year, and now has them in the quarterfinals with the chance to knock off Villanova to make their second straight semifinal appearance and hopefully get back to Frisco to try to win that title after they came one play short of knocking off Sam Houston last year. Then finally, fourth place, Cole Johnson, James Madison quarterback, 3,200 passing yards, 37 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns. And Cole Johnson has been quietly one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country, man. He's really been the leader of this James Madison offense and has James Madison as one of the top seeds in the FCS playoffs right now, with a chance to get to the semifinals this weekend with a huge game against Montana. And Cole Johnson has been a very big part of what's been happening over in James Madison. There's a lot of people arguing that he should have found himself in the final 3, and I personally don't think they may have been wrong. There was a lot of deserving candidates, so congrats to everybody who made this list. And now we got to split some hairs, man. I always hate doing this, but it's got to be done when you get to the final 3 candidates. Now, the finalists for the Walter Payton Award this year, it starts with Quay Holmes, ETSU, East Tennessee State running back, and this guy has been electric this year, to say the least. 1,500 rushing yards, 17 rushing touchdowns, 300 yards receiving, and 3 receiving touchdowns. Leads the FCS in rushing yards per game, tied second in rushing touchdowns, and took home the SoCon Player of the Year this year. And on top of that, man, Holmes is a very big reason that ETSU finds themselves in the quarterfinals right now. And he has been the most explosive player in this offense. And when he isn't at his best, this Buccaneers offense really struggles. And he is going to be a key this weekend. Like I said on my preview of the quarterfinals yesterday, if they want to knock off North Dakota State, Holmes is going to have one of those career-defining games against one of the best defenses he's seen all year. Now, this season had 7 games with over 100 yards rushing, 5 games with over 2 or more touchdowns, and played a huge role in ETSU's big upset against Vanderbilt in week 1, in which he had over 150 yards rushing, averaged over 6.5 yards per carry, and really led this offense to a huge win over an SEC opponent on the road in week 1. Now, Holmes is looking to become the first East Tennessee State player to ever win the Walter Payton Award, become also the first SoCon player to win the award since 2018, when Sanford's Devlin Hodges won the award and took that one home. So a lot on the line for Holmes and East Tennessee State, but he has been one of the most electric players, a great dual threat back, can catch it out of the backfield, can run the football. In the second round last week, was the leading receiver for the Bucs and also was the leading rusher. He can do it all, and he is the face of an ETSU offense that has had a giant year and is really making a strong run in the playoffs. Now, these last 2 guys, man, are 2 of the best players that I would say we've ever seen in FCS, man. And I think they deserve their respect. And shout out to both of these guys. And it's probably going to come down to these 2 guys. And I can't think of 2 better guys that deserve the recognition. Cole Kelley, we'll start with him. Cole Kelley, Southeastern Louisiana, quarterback, 73.6% completion percentage, over 5,100 passing yards, 44 passing touchdowns, 10 picks, almost 500 rushing yards, and 16 rushing touchdowns. Leads CFCS in completion percentage, second in passing efficiency, third in touchdowns, and first in passing yards. This guy has been one of the best quarterbacks all season long. He's the reigning Walter Payton Award winner, took the award over Eric Barriere last year. And him being the reigning Walter Payton Award winner, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in FCS for multiple seasons now. And this guy was really and truly the reason Southeastern Louisiana made that run in the playoffs to the second round, where they ultimately lost to James Madison on the road last weekend. But this guy's done it all, man. 11 games with over 300 passing yards, 10 with over 3 or more touchdowns, and 9 games with over 70% of his passes completed. In an air raid system attack where they just air it out multiple times a game, Cole Kelley has been one of the more efficient quarterbacks in terms of putting the ball where it needs to be and making plays for this Southeastern offense that has been one of the best in the country. I mean, they were electric this year, and this guy really went out with a bang this season. Now, one of his biggest performances came in their Week 4 win over Nicholls State, over 450 total yards, 7 touchdowns, and completed almost 77% of his passes. That is the type of performance that Cole Kelley could put up almost any weekend, and I think he deserves all the praise, all the, whatever you want to give him, man. Cole Kelley deserves it. This is one of the best careers that we've seen in FCS in recent memory, man. He became the first ever Southeastern Louisiana player to win the Walter Payton Award last season. We'll look to bring a second award back to the Lions and become the first back-to-back winner of this award since Jeremiah Briscoe of Sam Houston State in 2016-2017 when he went back-to-back with it. But, man, Cole Kelley, outstanding career, transferred in from Arkansas and has been at the top of the FCS for multiple years now, and I think will go down as arguably one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen at the FCS level statistically in a long time. In the 6'7" frame, he should be able to get a shot at the NFL, but Cole Kelley, a very, very deserving, candidate here for the Walter Payton Award. But we got our last guy. Him and Cole Kelley's name are going to go down in history together. When you say Cole Kelley, you're going to have to say Eric Barriere and vice versa. Eastern Washington quarterback, man, 65% of his passes completed for over 5,000 yards, 46 passing touchdowns, 8 picks, over 200 rushing yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. He was second in the FCS in passing touchdowns, third in efficiency, second in passing yards, 10th in the FCS in completion percentage, and now is a back-to-back Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year award winner. And that's such a tough conference to win that award, but there was no question that Eric Barriere was taking that one home. And similar to Kelley, man, he's been a top 2, top 3 FCS quarterback for multiple seasons now. He's put Eastern Washington at or near the top of the FCS and the Big Sky for multiple years. He's put up huge statistical performances, and he's a huge reason that he's led Eastern Washington to multiple playoff runs, found the way to their second round till they ultimately lost to Montana last weekend, but it was no fault of Barriere as he threw for another 400 or 500 yards, 5 passing touchdowns, and he just continues to put up the statistics and be the face of this team. 6 games for Barriere with over 400 yards passing, 9 games with over 300 yards passing, 9 games with 3 or more touchdowns, and had an all-time performance that every ESPN station picked up against Idaho this season. 600 yards passing, 8 total touchdowns, and completed over 74% of his passes. That doesn't even sound real. And all the pressure was on him. Eastern Washington didn't have the most stout defense in the country. And week after week, it was up to Eric Barriere in this offense to put up points. And week after week, man, he found a way to do it for the most part. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done over his career in this season. He led EWU to huge wins over UNLV, Montana, UNI in the first round of the playoffs. And I think he's looking to kind of correct what happened last year, man. Eric Barriere lost this award to Cole Kelley by 6 votes last year, but then Barriere turned around and won the FCS Player of the Year award given to him by the NCAA and only won by, I believe it was like 4 or 5 votes over Kelley. So they flipped him last year, and he's looking to become the first Eastern Washington player to win the award since 2015 when Cooper Kupp took home the award, and is looking to become the 4th EWU player to win this award, joining Kupp, joining Bo Levi Mitchell, and Eric Meyer. But when you look at Barriere, everything I just said about Kelley really stands. An overlooked high school prospect, came into Eastern Washington and has lit it up on the red turf, and in my opinion, is going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it at this level, and especially one of the best quarterbacks to ever do it in the Big Sky in Eastern Washington, man. So shout out to all the candidates for this award, man. They all deserve the accolades and the recognition, which is why I love doing these type of episodes. But who should win, and we got to pick hairs. And I hate doing it because whoever you don't pick, the fans of that team are gonna be like, man, you're overlooking this, you're overlooking that. I put a little ballot together like I did for the Buchanan Award. The two guys who I thought might have deserved to be in the top three, and we can debate back and forth all day. And I don't mind the top three, but the two guys who I thought had an argument was one, Cole Johnson and James Madison had an outstanding season at quarterback, so efficient and led that James Madison offense to a different level. So I thought Cole Johnson had a great argument to be in that three. And then I'm going to say it. It might not. A lot of people might not agree with me due to playing in the same conference he was in, but Cameron Ward, Incarnate Word quarterback, in my opinion, I think he had a great argument too. I mean, winning the Southland Offensive Player of the Year, even over Cole Kelley, he was electric this year in that offense. And really and truly, without him, there's no way Incarnate Word makes the playoff run they did and come within 7 points of beating Sam Houston. I thought Cameron Ward was so overlooked this year, and I thought Ward and Johnson were probably the only two you could say were snubbed out of the final three, in my opinion. I think both of those guys had a great argument. Now, my ballot, I work up at 3. I have Quay Holmes, man, ETSU running back, and this guy has been a problem all year long. He pops off the film. He's so explosive. He's so dynamic in how he can be used to attack the defense. You can put him outside in the slot. You can bring him in motion. He can run the football between the tackles, run the football outside. You can dump it off to him, run screen passes. It doesn't matter. Quay Holmes in space is a problem, and this guy deserves a bunch of credit for the production he put up this year. But this has been a historically one QB award, and two, it's just hard to break that top two when you have two historically great quarterbacks at the FCS level fighting for that number one spot. So I don't think there's any lack of credit that needs to be any credit that needs to be taken away from Quay Holmes this season. It's just that this year the top two guys are just on that level, and I think it's been a two-person race all season long right now. But Quay Holmes comes in a respectable third for me, and then number two. And I know a lot of people have went back and forth on this. I'm putting Cole Kelley, Southeastern Louisiana, at 2, and I'm giving the Walter Payton Award this year to Eric Barriere from Eastern Washington. And I just feel, in my opinion, when you look at what happened last year, they were so similar, and a lot of people thought Barriere should have won it last year, and he came on the show and said he felt a little bit snubbed by that, and that this season was his season. And I think their stats are so similar. And the only thing that Kelly has is the rushing stats, but in terms of pure passing, I think Barriere, even though the stats might not be better, I think he did it in a much tougher conference against much better defenses. You look at the Montana defenses he had to face, the Montana State. Even the Weber State defense had a lot of potential. You know, beat a FBS team in UNLV week 1 on the road. I think Eric Barriere has done enough this year to get that Walter Payton Award, and I think Cole Kelley only loses it by a handful of votes. He had an outstanding season, legendary career, but I think this year's the year you got to give it to Eric Barriere. When you look at just the overall dominance of the stats that Barriere put up week in and week out, man, I think he deserves it this year. And I know people hate to say this, and they say it's a season by season award, not a lifetime award. Kelley got it last year. I just cannot see the voters not is letting Eric Barriere walk away from FCS football without giving him a Walter Payton Award. There's no way, in my opinion, they're going to let that happen. The stats are so similar. The production these past few years have been so similar. Barriere is going to take the award, in my opinion, and I think he deserves it. Kelley came on real strong late, and when you look at Barriere, I think he had some performances that could have potentially hurt him, especially that Weber State performance. But when you look at the consistency of his performances against those top defenses, finding a way to beat UNLV, finding a way to beat Montana early in the season on ESPN2, I think he has done it in a tougher conference, in my opinion, and I think their stats are just so similar. I'm going to give the slight nod to Barriere to win the Walter Payton Award. So I have Barriere 1, Kelley 2, Holmes 3, in my opinion. But guys, comment below your rankings. Who do you think should win and why? And what do you think about the finalist list, the top 10 finalists? What do you think about that? And who do you think was snubbed from the top 10 and the top 3? Let me know below in the comments, man. Make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, man. on the video before you leave. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And man, make sure to go check out our quarterfinals preview. It'll be linked at the end of the episode as well, and you can find it on our homepage. Man, we had like a 2-hour live stream. Great questions, great interaction. Check out the predictions. Comment on that video, your thoughts on all the games and what you're expecting to see. And guys, we'll be back very, very soon. I'm gonna talk about the Cameron Ward transfer. Going to talk about the Heisman Trophy. We got a lot of episodes coming down the pipeline. Check out our interview from this morning. Carl Mofer from Albany, running back, 2-time All-American in the CAA, dropped this morning. Go check that one out. But until next time, guys, the Blue Bloods are out.